Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Three Men in Football. All right, lads?
Outside, Thomas.
Darren, Simon, how are we?
Are we just saying each other's names?
Yeah, I think we should just mention Simon. Thomas, we okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Dad.
Just in case people don't know what they're watching. All right, so we're back for another episode. Looking forward to this one. Should be a good one. You having a good week, lads?
Yeah, a bit of a run today, you know, cobwebs off and all that, so we're feeling all right.
Tell us your time, Daz, because I did see that you posted that.
I had to, mate. 5K, just under 24 minutes, 23:46, I think it was.
Well done, mate.
And to be fair, carrying this much weight, I've done all right there.
Brilliant,
It's the
Darren.
quarantine 15, isn't it? Everyone's putting on 15 pounds during quarantine.
Is that per day or per... what's that?
Yeah, something like that.
And the rest.
What have you put on, Tom?
I put an Under Armour trackie on, mate.
All right, so I'm going to kick us off with, as normal with some comments. So firstly, thanks for everyone for the feedback. We're getting really good numbers on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. We're also getting some visits to the website, which is good to see. And the people are giving us feedback. We've also started our Facebook page as well, Daz, which has been fun this week, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Facebook page. And what's great, particularly over the last couple of days, is people have been putting on things for us to comment on. So we had one today off Dean. He was talking about best left footer you've seen, and
Yeah, it was a good one.
put a few posts on, and it just gets that interaction, which I think really improves the show.
Yeah, definitely. It makes it better. So I'll kick off with some comments. We've got loads in this week. I had a load of comments. Obviously, I've strategically selected the ones that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is, the podcast is absolutely brilliant. The banter between you three is quality. I mean, I don't know who he's listening to, but that's Steve Evans.
Yeah, Steve listens to a different podcast, but he just messaged me to say how good it was, the other podcast.
Yeah, no, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, Steve. Much appreciated. These are new listeners, so that's good. The second one is a cracker. Great show, lads. Got to agree with Darren. Too many kids are overcoached. Best way to coach is to allow the kids to play. Don't tell them what to do. You wouldn't tell a kid who wants to be an artist to do paint by numbers. You give them a brush and a blank canvas and let them make mistakes. Otherwise, they'll never learn. And that's from Baby Perlo, or otherwise known as Thomas's one fan, Dan from Kirby.
To be fair, that was quite poetic. I got all emotional then.
It was really good.
I'm glad-
He sends good comments in every week. He's a smart guy.
He's read my autobiography, which is great.
Well, did you just write it and just give it to him?
I only needed him. What he's doing is he's feeding it through this podcast every week.
Love it.
Was it called Me, Myself and I?
Okay, on to the next one swiftly. So comment number 3. Hi, Tom. I remember that game with Davy Green very well, as me and my dad refereed the game. Got to say, though, one of the worst penalty shootouts I've ever seen. We're not going to talk about that because I still have bad memories and some nightmares about missing that penalty. So we'll say nothing. Thanks for not saying anything.
No, we wouldn't say. All I can say is we did eventually get the ball back.
It took us a week.
Anyway, you finished that off with really enjoying the content so far. I'm listening while working from home. And that's from Mark Stewart. So we're also helping people with their mental health as well, which
we might
get giving back.
Yeah, we might get a grant here because we have
maybe.
Thomas on the show and we're helping with mental health. So
care in the community.
Yeah.
I wonder if we qualify as frontline workers. You already do that.
Darren's Googling it now, look.
Yeah.
All right, last comment. And as I said before, I strategically selected these comments. So this one was, I think he mentioned it in a previous episode, but last year, Simon scored an overhead kick in a match. And as he's so humble, of course, he kind of downplayed it. Hang on. It was a screamer. He must have been 5 feet off the ground, connected with it from across about 15 yards out, and it flew in the top corner. Bit like Rooney's against City, but better. Simon.
No way! No way!
Let me go back because you killed that bit, Daz. Bit like Rooney's against City, but better, as Simon hit his with his laces, and we all know Rooney's came off his shin, and that's from Andy Woolfoot.
Can I just say, Simon, on that, I was there. I know what I saw. And this Andy guy, he must be your best mate in the world.
Oh, brilliant. You've blocked it out, Daz. You've just blocked it out. I've brought that one up because we're talking about something that is it makes that relevant today. And also, I wanted to mention the fact that I scored an overhead kick at 40.
Again.
Anyway, a couple of shout-outs. Sean Butterworth gives us great feedback every week and is listening. Sean McCusker, who, Daz, I think you introduced to the podcast.
All right, okay, yeah.
And
yeah.
Gavin Beckwith.
Yeah, Gav, yeah.
Always one of your mates.
Yeah, he is. KB Boys manager, good lad.
Giving us good feedback, loving the content. So things are going really well. Again, we've had a good number of listeners this week. The interaction on the Facebook page has been brilliant. And the more of that we get, the better. So what we did this week was we did the vote of what we wanted to talk about. And we put up 4 different options. And actually, we went into it thinking that one was going to win. And actually, that finished somewhere close to last. So the one that won, and by popular demand, we are going to talk about football's greatest moments. However, let's just talk about the fact that we put this on Facebook, right? And we talk about the podcast through the week. We don't really talk about content much, but we talk about the subject matter. And Thomas ignored everything we said. Also ignored the vote on Facebook, even though we know he's been on there because he's been commenting, and decided to look into the greatest football games.
Simon, I just think that was because he wanted to bring up Istanbul again. All these Liverpool games, which, yeah, fair play, they come back with, just so we could talk about them again.
Definitely.
Darren, stop it now. You're picking on me a little bit here. I just misread the title. I really did think we were talking about football's greatest games. And I just missed the moment bit out. That's all.
So you changed moment for game because it looks simple?
Because that's what it looked like to me when I looked at it. I was, oh, yeah, that's good. Football's greatest games. Brilliant.
So we need to look at the font.
Yeah. Don't worry, we'll sort that out. That's okay. So given that Thomas has done a massive amount of research into football's greatest games, let's get him to start on football's greatest moments. What have you got, Tom? What have you got to offer?
Well, I've got a great bit of skill that happened, I think, in '97. And it's Roberto Carlos's free kick in Le Tournoi.
Yes.
Against France.
Nice.
I watched it again this morning. He's about 35 yards out and he smashes it with his left foot, cuts across the ball. It goes about 10 yards round the wall, curls back in, hits the post. Barthez is just stood in the middle of his goal. No chance. Absolute worldie.
What was interesting about that one is he probably, in the years up to that or the games up to that, he'd hit everyone trying to do that. And everyone hit the crowd, the corner flag. And what was brilliant after that, every lad in amateur football tried to do exactly the same as that. And it ended up out. And then they do that thing, don't they, where they look at the ground as looking for a bobble. You know, it's just, it was a brilliant free kick.
I've done that so many times. Try and hit it as hard as you can. And it goes off.
Can I just say, lads, you've all seen me play football. I couldn't kick it to the goal from that far out.
All right, so I've got a cracking moment, which was Zidane's headbutt on Materazzi in the World Cup final in 2006.
Now,
I mean, I know it's one of them that I guess it's not a great moment, but it's a very memorable moment.
It is, because I think we always thought Zidane was this cool, calm, collective footballer.
Yeah.
And for him to get wound up, because that's what they were trying to do all game, just wind him up. And for him to then react was the result he wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, at that stage, he was by far the best player in the world.
Oh, brilliant.
Certainly in my opinion, anyway, because he got number 1 on my list.
It was on Materazzi, wasn't it?
Yeah, Materazzi, yeah.
And he was a dirty, horrible player. I think he got sent off at Anfield, I think, for Inter Milan in the Champions League. He wasn't a nice player at all. And I think some of the stuff that he was saying to Zidane, what come out after in the press, you know, he deserved an headbutt. The only difference is he should have got it on the nose and not on the chest.
Well, we all know we also know you like a headbutt now and then, Thomas.
Was that the year, did Materazzi leave Everton the year before?
No, but didn't he go out there after that?
Did he go afterwards?
I'm not sure.
I know it was that time though, wasn't it? He was either there before or after.
That was 2006. I think it might have been just after that. But he did great for Italy in that game because that turned the game.
Yeah.
Remember the image of Zidane walking down the steps past the World Cup? Horrible.
Yeah.
But like, as we know that you won't have anything that includes a headbutt or a fight or anything.
Oh no, never on my pitch. I wanted to just talk about the Van Basten volley.
Oh,
so
definitely classic.
It was just unbelievable. What got me was not only the how clean he hit it, but actually the angle. I think that's what makes it probably the best volley I've ever seen. You know, the angle he hit that and get the dip on it was phenomenal. Yeah. It was one of them moments where you just think, yeah, that guy can play.
He had no right to score that, did he?
Oh, and the keeper's probably thinking, I'm going to get this.
And it was against a brilliant keeper as well. It was against that Desailly, who we've talked about a couple of times on the podcast.
Yeah.
He was brilliant at the time. And he hit it over him into the far corner.
The whole body shape of it and everything, the way it come over his head was just a dream. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime hit that.
Yeah.
The only other one that I can think of that is similar in the fact that it probably won't be repeated is the cameo goal for West Ham, the volley, the one that came over and he did the scissor in the air. And
Yeah.
You're not going to see that kind of goal on a regular basis, are you?
No, and the amount of balls I lost trying to replicate that.
Everyone tried to do it the next time they played.
In 5-a-side goals.
All right, Tom, what have you got?
I've got loads, but one that I really, really enjoyed was Gazza's goal against Scotland at Euro '96 and the dentist chair celebration. Absolutely brilliant. So if you remember rightly, the ball's bouncing, he flicks it over Colin Hendry's head, then he scores, runs past the far post, slides in on his knees, lies there, and he run over and sprayed the water right in his mouth. After being caught out on the ale before, I don't know where, La Manga or somewhere, whatever, training camp.
It wasn't in Hong Kong.
They got caught drinking. I don't know where it was, but I mean, they got caught drinking, hadn't they? And the press had snuck in and took photographs of them, and they decided to boycott the press, and then they had an absolute worldie of a tournament. One of my favourite tournaments I've ever watched, that Euro '96.
Yeah, and I think what was good for me as well is at the time, it's coming home. Did that come out as well for that Euros?
Yeah,
and it just reverberated around Wembley Stadium, and it was just one of them moments where hairs on the back of your neck, and my hero Gazza scored. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. It was really good. All right, so how about and again, I've definitely got some goals in my list. Zidane's volley against Bayer Leverkusen in 2002, the Euros final. That was a crazy volley. So it was like a scissor kick on his side. He didn't actually leave the ground, but he just leant over to his left and hit it.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
But Zidane had that in his locker all the time. He was that type of player. Technically, probably one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, he was quality. I mean, in that game as well, he just ran the game. They won it. They won the cup, and it was all about how he played in that game.
Yeah,
he just floated around the pitch, though, didn't he? So for me, that's what he did. I want to go back a little bit further now in time when I was growing up watching the FA Cup final. And I remember there's two moments in the FA Cup finals which stick in my mind. The first one was Villa for Tottenham. Ricky Villa, when he went through.
Oh, yeah.
And City's. And it's down as like one of the best ever FA Cup goals. And he danced his way through about 4 or 5 defenders and just slotted it past. And it was just, I'd heard of this guy, and we didn't get as much football back then. So, for this, him and our dealers came over from Argentina to play, and it was like, who is this guy? And to be fair, I don't think he did much after that.
No.
I think he dined out on that goal, which was amazing. And the other FA Cup goal I wanted to bring up was Keith Houchin for Coventry City, diving header against Tottenham. I think it was 1987. And John Sinnott was the Coventry manager. And it was just Coventry were the underdogs. And I don't know if Cyril Regis or Chamberlain that played for Coventry, a couple of those guys. And the ball just came in. And Keith Houchin, who I'd never heard of in my life, got in front of, it might have been Steve Perryman or Gary Mabbott, one of those guys, and flicked it with his head. And it was just brilliant. And those moments when you're a kid you always then go out on the football field, as I said before, and replicate it. You never do, you know. But it was just those moments, if you like, stick with you forever.
Yeah, that was a brilliant goal. The talking about FA Cup goals, how about the Ryan Giggs goal in the semi-final against Arsenal?
Oh, yeah.
The one where he just went through everyone. He got a bit of luck on the edge of the area, but he'd earned that luck because he'd picked the ball up really early and then he put it over Seaman into the roof of the net.
Yeah,
brilliant goal.
Yeah,
just going back to Darren.
Yeah.
I don't know them. Did you watch them on the History Channel?
That's harsh, that, mate. That's harsh. We had the top load of video, I think, at the time. You know?
Peter Max.
My dad.
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
my dad had it on control. It was called Darren. Get up and change that. Get up and change that.
All right. So, what you young fella? What have you got for us?
So, I've still got a load on me list, and I've got a couple of Liverpool ones, and I'll leave them towards the end. But I'm going to go towards a manager, and I'm going to go to Kevin Keegan when he had that absolute meltdown in the 95-96 season, where they lost that massive lead against Man United.
10 points.
And he was, I'd love it if we done it. I'd love it if we do. You know, it was just superb. Full-on meltdown. And it was just the impetus United needed. They'd seen that he'd gone in the head, and they went on to win it. And it was just classic TV. And I think even now, I think people will be shouting that to him when they see him in the street.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm reading his book still. It's a long book. And and he talks about that moment and people, and he reflects on it, and like he talks about how he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he doesn't regret it. And it's often a couple of players in the past when he was at England understood why he did it, because that's the way he is, whether there's a camera there or not. And I believe, Simon, rumour has it that he was sort of someone who Thomas looked up to for his wall of hate, that sort of passion that he shows.
Yeah. Definitely.
No, mine's hatred. That's passion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I really want to hit them with something.
All right, here's another classic goal. Collymores against Newcastle, the 4-3 in '96.
Amazing.
What a game that was. I mean, if you look at Thomas, I know you did a lot of research into the best ever games, so surely that's on the list.
It is, yeah. And I just remember the commentary when Martin Tyler was actually good and liked Liverpool, and it was Barnes to Collymore. It's Barnes to Rush to Barnes to Collymore. It was brilliant.
I bet you just got that on a wall art.
Brilliant that Thomas is now doing impressions as well.
I didn't realise that was part of the features. Is that a new feature we've got?
That wasn't an impression. I just getting into, I'd researched that game.
Yeah. Do you know what was interesting to say on that game, sorry Thomas, is Kevin Keegan, after that goal, the camera goes to him and he's slumped behind the advertising board, and he just looked shattered. He looked as though he'd played. Yeah. And I think sometimes people forget the managers, the emotional turmoil they go through in a game, because Newcastle kept getting it back in front or whatever, and then suddenly that was it, the game over.
Yeah. Well, just the other day on Sky, I watched the game that happened 12 months later at Anfield, and it was another 4-3.
Yeah. Wasn't as good, though.
It wasn't exciting, but, 4-3 game with a very late winner from Robbie Fowler. It was brilliant. Faustino Asprilla up front for Newcastle scored an absolute belter. We had Bjornaby playing left back, and his balls into the box were outstanding. It was just a great game. I loved watching that.
Yeah, Collymore was great. He did well for Liverpool, but certainly not as well as he could have done. I think if he'd lasted longer, he'd have done a lot better.
Yeah, he came to Villa after Liverpool, and again he's a Villa fan, and again he was someone who had everything in his locker to be a top player. And I don't know. I just think there was something lacking a little bit at times, but potential and ability-wise, he was right up there. And it's amazing. He didn't, at that time, I think England had so many quality strikers that when you think Fowler didn't get a lot of caps, Collymore didn't get a lot of caps.
Yeah.
And they were both quality strikers.
Yeah, but you think about the I heard Shearer, Wright, and Lineker talking about how they all battled to get into the England team. Lineker was telling a story at the weekend about a goal that he scored. He was talking about overhead kicks, and he'd scored like a scissor kick. And Wrighty's response was, "Yeah, I was on the bench again, and they didn't bring me on because you scored that overhead kick." Well, that happened a lot. We had, when you look at the England players that we had great forwards. And if you we had great players right throughout the team, but the forwards, like Shearer was close to being the best player in the world at one stage. Yeah. And I think he finished third in the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
He was at that stage that he thought he was winning it.
Yeah.
Because he was doing that well, scoring that many goals.
And of course, Shearer, you'd almost say was the perfect striker.
Yeah.
He was strong. He could hit a ball. I mean, some of his goals, his volleys, were stunning. He could edit. He could elbow people. He could push people. He had everything about him. Towards the end of his career, obviously lost a bit of pace in that, but he was quality striker.
But even then, he scored. Remember that volley he scored against Everton?
Yeah. Oh. Yes.
And that was late in his career. He just had ability, and I think it's different when you're a forward as well, because when you lose that yard of pace, you've only got so long to go then, haven't you? Unless you're like a Teddy Sheringham, who basically played everything at a really slow pace. You rely, most good forwards rely on a bit of pace.
Yeah, I hate them.
And but generally because they're running past you, does.
Yeah. That's why I sit that deep now. I'm going behind the keeper.
Yeah.
I drop any
system. All right, so let's get on to a couple of crackers. So one of them, for me, a big one, is Grobbelaar's spaghetti legs in Rome.
Oh, God, yeah.
84.
Yeah.
I mean, so think about the pressure of that environment and what he's doing and what he's going through in his head. And he had the whereabouts to do that and put them off. And then we end up winning the penalty shootout.
Yeah, and also...
over the bar, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think understanding that you could do that, because no one had ever done it at that time. And I remember we had the neighbour from across the road in our house who got drunk on our one of our chairs just because Liverpool had won. It was just, I've never seen a drunk before. It was hysterical.
Yeah.
But for me, it was one of those moments where this could go horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah. He could look really stupid. And then Dudek did it, didn't he? And he could have looked really stupid, and we ended up winning that final as well.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something we need to do there for
goalkeepers. But you've got to use anything you can, haven't you? At the end of the day, that one-on-one situation, the striker appears to have all the power. You've just got to take it away from them. Try and put them off. You take them down a notch by like 5-10%. The chances are you've got a much better chance of saving it.
Because what happens then, that psychology where they're looking at you rather than looking at the goal.
Exactly.
Yeah. There is some goalies that have got a presence and a skill about them that when you're walking towards them, the goal shrinks and they look 8 feet tall. And you can just see some of these forwards or these players going in a shootout and thinking, I'm not putting this ball past that person. You can see it in their eyes before they've even took the shot. I was always worried about taking penalties, right throughout my games. Anytime, even we're getting into extra time, and I'm thinking we've got to win this game because I don't want to take a penalty. And I always would step up and take one. And I only ever missed 2 in my time playing football, but they were 2 in massive games. And I was so paranoid about it. I'd go the extra mile in extra time to try and get us to win the game because I didn't want to take penalties.
Yeah,
I was petrified.
I was the same, Si, and I remember taking one pen and put it over the bar, unfortunately, in the penalty shootout. And Colin Butterworth, who we all know, we sat in the changes afterwards. I was down, and he just looked at me and went, wasn't as bad as Darren Ross's in the 94 World Cup.
Exactly what you need.
And he brought me right back up to what I needed. It was brilliant.
Brilliant. But it's because in the game, you never really worry about, the ball drops here in the area, or I'll have shots from anywhere. That never really bothered me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother me trying to go past a man or whatever. But standing 12 yards out, taking a penalty against the keeper, actually you're nailed on to score majority of the time. But it just gets you.
And again, it's something you can't, when you're in a game situation, you can't replicate that in training.
And you overthink it as well, don't you?
Of course you do. And you're almost, it's that psychology where, you look at one way, or you're going to put it in that corner, you look at the other corner. It's all that goes through your mind, so you don't naturally do it. And that's why it's utmost respect for anybody who goes up and takes a penalty.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree.
If you miss it, though, I'm going to have a go at them.
I've only been in one. I've managed sides that have been in penalty shootouts, but I've only been in, as a player. I've only been in one where we got to a quarter final of the cup, and I took the fourth penalty, and I wasn't a bit bothered. I thought, I know where I'm going to put it. I can only hit it to me right because I'm right-footed, and I just put it like middle to top corner, and we won the penalty shootout. It was all right. So I've got a 100% record.
Stats don't lie, mate. Stats don't lie.
Stats don't lie. From Stato. All right, Tom, what have you got on your list? What else?
I've still got quite a few. So, very quickly, I'll do Mourinho at Old Trafford, running down the wing, slid on his knees, celebrating before we knew he was an idiot. And as you know, he's on my wall of hate, so I don't like him. So we'll skip past that one. I've got a great one. Cantona's double leg kung fu kick on that fan. Yeah,
that was a good one. I mean, in as iconic moments, that was right up there, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's interesting about, sorry, Thomas, what's interesting about that one is the reaction of the players from the camera angle. They just were like, what's going on, Sorry, Tom.
He just proper lost it. I only imagine what's going through players of that stature, what's going through their mind, or what's been said to them, or what type of day they're having. I know we're all human and stuff, and some days you're just having a bad day and someone can say the wrong thing and you can snap. But, in front of all the TV cameras, in front of all the world, he's lost it to that extent where he's jumped in and 2-footed the fan. Now, you've all been in the game, professional football. You've sat next to idiots that will shout the most disgusting, horrible things. And it doesn't matter if it's Gary Neville. But to anyone else, what type of person are you shouting that stuff? But you never expect that footballer who's 6 foot, an athlete, an absolute machine to come over the barrier to try and do you in.
And then there was a woman, an older woman, stood right next to the lad as well. Yeah. And you're thinking, Cantona just did not hold back at all. He could have gone through both of them. Yeah. He just jumped over the Hordens.
Yeah, I was made up he got over the Hordens.
Imagine if he'd have just fallen flat on his face.
Because that would have been better.
All right, so I've got one that I don't want to upset myself or Thomas, but I'm going to throw this one in anyway. The Michael Thomas goal for Arsenal to win the league in 89.
Yeah.
So they had to win 2-0, and it's the time is up, and Steve McMahon turns around, he's giving it to 2 minutes to go, and then he breaks away and scores that goal. Absolutely heartbreaking. And the extension of that story is not long before that, my nana died, my dad's mum. Sorry to make it a little bit morbid. But that was the first time I'd ever seen my dad upset when my nan died. And then Liverpool got beat in that game, and he was an absolute mess. Honestly, it was horrific. Like I was a kid at the time. I wasn't that old. And you're kind of watching your dad go through that, and that's, I've loved football all my life, but that's where it just means something so much deeper to people, doesn't it?
Yeah, massive. And I think it was the nature of it, and it was at Anfield, and yeah, it was just one of them moments where, and he did that he chipped it over Grobler, didn't he, as he went through, and did that forward roll or something, did he? Yeah. Or he was,
Yeah, it was a great, really, really good goal. A little dink over Grobler, and we were good at the time as well. We were a solid team.
Yeah. So, Thomas, you both Liverpool fans. What did you think then when you signed him? Didn't you sign him?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, he was a decent player, but he was never going to be a world beater for us. I didn't think, but he was a decent player.
He scored the winner in the FA Cup final.
Yeah, did really well for it. He talks about it today, doesn't he? He loves it.
Yeah. So he stayed in Liverpool, but just let me. Simon brought a sad story out there about that game. I also have a sad story about that game. So I was 9, and I was out playing on my bike, and I went down Long Lane. I snuck up there. I wasn't allowed up there because it was too far from the house. And Long Lane's a really steep hill going down towards the cricket club. And at the bottom, there was a bit of road that hadn't been tarmacked and was full of gravel. And I was showing off, and I was giving this lad the takey, which is a backie for, a seater.
Let me explain it for the non-Liverpool people. You've got someone on the back of your bike.
Yeah.
So I'm coming down the hill really, really quick, and I hit this gravel, flipped off, and cut my arm, and I've still got the scar on my elbow. And then I went home crying. my bike was broke. I was cut and scarred, and then I had to sit there and watch that game with what's that stingy cream you put on your elbow?
Germaline.
I had that Germaline on. I was oh my, what a night! It was just horrendous.
Oh yeah, horrific. Oh my god,
lads, is this therapy? Have I come into the wrong?
It is basically therapy. All right, so let's get to some of the, because there are some bigger ones here. Let's get to some bigger ones.
Well, I just want to talk about one massive one, which is not actually on the football field. The Bosman ruling.
Yeah, I had that one on my list.
Yeah.
But it was such an impact on football in general. It's changed the game massively. Massively.
And I think that freedom of movement after your contracts ended across Europe, lots of clubs have lost out on millions, if you like.
Yeah.
Liverpool, probably two of the better players, is Owen and McManaman. They both went on Bosman. Yeah. That's millions of pounds. And it was a shift in power from the club to the player. And suddenly the player had all the cards. And the clubs were trying desperately, even now, in the last year of the contract. You sign a 4-year contract, you know the maximum you're going to do is 3.
And don't you think it's similar now? It's still the same now. The players have still got a lot of the power.
Oh, yeah. And that's why you have the massive weekly wages, £300,000 a week, £150,000, because clubs are desperate for these top players and even average players to stay at the clubs.
But then we're saying players have got all the power, but then think about what's happening at the moment. We'll talk about the giving updates on what's going on in a bit, but the players have got a certain amount of power, but there's a point at which that peer pressure and the club pressure just builds up to the point where you don't, the power's lost. Because you then become a subject of the kind of power of opinion around the world, around the UK. That's definitely an issue. Okay, so let's get to the bigger ones, though, because there are some big ones here that would avoid, and I'll give one. That I think is a classic, is the Watford-Leicester playoff.
Oh, yes.
So where Knockaert misses the penalty in the 96th minute, and then Watford go down the other end, and Troy Deeney scores.
Yeah.
And then the game ends, and that's it, it's done. And you see the image of Knockaert after, because he hits the bar, that comes back out, keeper throws it out, and then it goes down the other end, and they score the goal, and Knockaert's bent over, just distraught, and then the game's over, and they get through to the final of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think Zola was the manager of Watford.
Zola was the manager, yeah.
And was it Pearson for Leicester?
Yeah.
Nigel Pearson. I mean, and the emotions of when they got the pen, I think, I watched this recently, when Leicester got the pen, it was like Zola, you could see Zola's face and all that. It was like, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to score, generally. Yeah. You know? And then that emotional roller coaster they must have all gone on to try and keep the cool as that ball's getting crossed and they see Troy Deeney head it. Or did he head it?
No, he blasted it in the top corner.
All right, okay. So, that emotional roller coaster, unbelievable.
Yeah, brilliant game. Okay, what else?
Yeah, that 90 seconds, though, just epitomises why we love football. Absolutely. Everything that you love about football, from the penalty, the foul, the decision being given at the penalty, and then the breakaway and the goal is just everything that we love about football and why we come back every week and why we're missing it so much.
Totally agree. Okay, what have you got?
I'm going to my beloved Liverpool. Beloved Liverpool.
You've been waiting for one of us to bring this up, haven't you?
No. And it's not even one that you think.
Go on.
It is the first ever golden goal final when Liverpool beat Alaves in the 2001 UEFA Cup final.
Yeah.
And Gary McAllister took a free kick and their centre-half nodded it in the top corner and we won 5-4 after an absolute epic game, which finished 4-4. Just amazing. And 2 red cards in extra time.
Yeah. That was
unbelievable.
I think lots of fans forget that. I recollect it now.
In the European Cup win in 2005, it gets lost because of that.
Yeah.
Well, we won the treble that year, didn't we? The cup treble.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Go on, Daz.
Okay, so I've got one here. I'm talking about Man United's 2-1 against Bayern Munich, 1999 treble.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I mean, it was the Ferguson subs. I think he brought on Solskjaer and Sheringham.
Yeah.
But what was really, really sad for me is one of my best players of all time, Lothar Matthäus, didn't ever win a European Cup because of that.
Didn't know you liked Lothar Matthäus, Daz.
Because he wasn't good enough.
I've watched a lot of old clips, but and for such a world class player, and the way United, and you need a bit of luck, in games, and for them to go on and the way they did it, it was just unbelievable.
And that was the treble year, wasn't it? 99.
Yeah.
They were brilliant that year. I mean, that was on my list as those 2 goals at the end, but also the fact that at that time United were dominating, and they were dominating England, and they were dominating Europe as well.
Yeah, because the forward line, I think at one point for United was it Cole, York, Sheringham, and Solskjaer.
Yeah, they had the 4 of them. I mean, that's as good as it gets, isn't it?
I think all 4 were on the pitch at the time as well, weren't they?
Yeah,
at the end, yeah.
Well, I watched it recently. That game was on again, and they got absolutely battered for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And they scored 2 goals from set pieces in a minute.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, Thomas, is that a Liverpool fan who got absolutely battered, or was that a football fan?
No. As a football fan, they got Bayern Munich absolutely battered them. They did, honestly. They missed chance after chance. I know it's the famous old saying, take your chances while they're there. But as a game, United were dominated for nearly the whole game. Yeah. United had a couple of chances here and there, but the Germans were outstanding. They schooled them for most of the game, and the Germans were just hanging on for the win because they'd missed that many chances. And you know what, that old saying bites you in the arse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You don't take your chances, something will happen.
All right, so I'm going to bring up a couple that obviously we're waiting for Thomas to bring up. I am a Liverpool fan, but not quite as biased as Thomas. But the Istanbul and the Barcelona comeback are right up there in my greatest moments. In terms of my team, Istanbul is probably as good as it gets. Although I do think Barcelona was something very special. But Istanbul for me, because there's a load of memories around that game as well that means something to me. But it was just such an amazing day.
It's the best comeback in European history. And it even beats the Barcelona, 3-0 down at half-time against the top team, best side in Europe at the time. And we had a scratch side. We had Gerrard, who was absolutely magnificent. But if you look at that team, we had Milan Barros, Djibril Cissé, Traore at left-back, Steve Finnan. He'd left Haman, who was probably our best midfielder alongside Gerrard, on the bench. Harry Kewell had gone off injured. It was just, and then to come back and to do what we did was absolutely unbelievable. And while you're talking about that game, my greatest moment, or one of my greatest moments, is Dudek's save from Shevchenko in extra time. Yeah. It was, I don't believe in God, but I'm telling you, there was some godlike thing that helped him save that ball, because it was out of this world. Was
it a double save?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then a volley.
With the one off the volley, like he just stood back up. I don't even know how he saved that.
That's what I mean. It was divine inspiration of some type. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it was similar to that United team, though. You never say die. You keep going. Yeah. Liverpool in the 70s, 80s, United in the 90s, 2000, Arsenal. Those sides win things because they keep going. And they have a belief. And I remember watching that game in a pub with my mate, Diet Coke, of course. And when it went to 3-0, it was like, should we go? I said, well, we're here now. We might as well stay, type of thing. And literally, the atmosphere towards the end was unbelievable. I ordered a lime and soda. It got mad.
Well, if you remember at half-time, they started singing You'll Never Walk Alone. And the atmosphere from that was, I remember standing in the pub with my mate Ben, and we're singing along to it at half time. And it's like, that doesn't happen. So the other thing is, there's a lot of superstition around that song as well. You don't sing it at half time.
Yeah.
And they're singing it because they're trying to get the team going. They're trying to, and Carragher tells the story about hearing it and that really getting them going. Love that. Brilliant.
But also at half time, Milan was celebrating in the dressing room as if they'd already won it. But I'm going to tell you very quickly. After the game, I watched it in the Old Swan in the Masons, and I'd seen Liverpool win FA Cups, but I'd never seen them win the big one. And when we come out of the pub, Darren can confirm this after the last European Cup win very recently. I went outside, and in the Old Swan, there was people on top of cars. They were out of sunroofs. There's people with convertibles. and there was like 10 people in the car stood up screaming and drinking, and it was just crazy. And we went into town. There was people up trees, sat on lampposts, lying on like what are they called? Umbrellas outside pubs. They were hanging off the balconies, jumping on the umbrellas. They closed pubs. It was brilliant. The atmosphere was the most unbelievable I've ever.
It's brilliant that Thomas has just described basically a riot and said it was brilliant.
I just on that site, Thomas, my version was after that game. I got in my car and drove home. I was in Rain Hill. It was a completely different atmosphere. I think there was one lad trying to get down the children's slide. I can't confirm it.
All right, Daz, have you got anything else?
I've got one, possibly two things I want to bring up. The Denmark win.
Yeah. Big one.
Which was unbelievable because they actually weren't meant to be in the tournament, if memory serves right. And then, when you look back at their side, there's some great individuals. I think the Laudrup guys played. Ulster, I think Schmeichel was in goal. Did Jan play? Moby, was that around that time?
It might have been right at the end of his time.
Right in his career, but certainly there was a few really good players there. And for them to come in, but I think what they played with no fear. They had nothing to lose.
They were brilliant.
I think sometimes
like Greece winning it, wasn't
it? Yeah. And I think people forget that sometimes you go into tournaments like England do it all the time. There's so much pressure on them to get to a certain point. Denmark just came in and went, "We're just going to play. We're just going to do our best, see what happens." And suddenly they're in the final and they go on and win it.
Well, I mean, Greece was the Euros in 2004, wasn't it? They absolutely should not have won. Their team was not good at all. No. And we had a half-decent team in that year as well, but Greece went on and won it and did really well. What else, Daz?
I had one more. I talk about the Cameroon side against Argentina when Cameroon won 1-0. It was almost like the birth of, was it Roger Miller?
Yeah.
You know, it was like those Cameroons defined what actually tackling shouldn't be. He went round and kicked everybody. Thomas, it was like you were in the channels, And
I love that.
They got 2 sent off and they were down to 9 men at the end. And still, they managed to hold on to make it 1-0. Yeah. And they went quite far then, I think, in the tournament, if I'm not mistaken. I think, did we play them?
England beat them in the quarter-final, beat them 3-2 after extra time.
That was a really close game.
Yeah, Lineker 2 penalties.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was
one of my games I've researched.
All right, so I've got one, and I think this is an absolute classic. Not our team. Sergio Aguero winning the Premier League.
Oh, yeah.
And that was 2002, and it was against QPR.
Joey Barton's meltdown.
Yeah, got sent off. Started headbutting everyone. Yeah, brilliant game. I mean, you're not going to get a game that is as big and is run as late as that. And to be fair, everything had to fall for them. They got a lucky bounce on the edge of the area. He couldn't have struck it any better. United obviously didn't do as well as they expected to do and lost it.
Yeah, what was interesting, I think, Si, is that United had heard that City were drawn or getting beat because their game had finished.
Yeah, and they'd done what they had to do.
They were getting beat, weren't they? They were getting beat. They were getting beat 2-1, and then Dzeko scored a header.
Yeah. In the corner. And then 2-2, and then it finished. Man United game finished.
Yeah.
And I think there was 5 minutes extra time in the Man City game. And then it's this Martin Tyler, Thomas's favourite commentator, took over, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Loved it.
I might put him on my wall of hate, Martin Tyler. Honestly,
save it. All right, Daz. What, Thomas? You got any more? I'm done.
I have, yeah. No, I've got one more, and I know it's a Liverpool one again, but it was a massive, massive thing that happened when Kenny Dalglish resigned after the 4-4 draw with Everton. Yeah,
it was a big one
at the derby. It's huge. Had massive ramifications for Liverpool going forward, and I don't think Liverpool were the same when he left. And it's taken, 30 years down the road. We've won the odd thing and we've looked good at times, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to finish the season and finally win it again after 30 years. But 30 years of hate really since he resigned.
Yeah, that was a tough day.
It wasn't. I don't think people realise how much Kenny Dalglish did for the Hillsborough families after Hillsborough.
Yeah.
And there's talk about it just took too much pressure and too much stress on. But he was for me, he's Liverpool Football Club. If there's ever a man or a player for, that you say, Ken Dalglish, it's Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah.
But the pressure he was under and everything that happened around that time, he was a remarkable man for what he did after Hillsborough. And that can't be sort of forgotten. And unfortunately, something had to go, and it was the job at Liverpool. But what a guy, what a lot of things he did for the city, for the Hillsborough families. He was a remarkable man.
Yeah, he went to a lot of the funerals as well, didn't he? And that's got to be heartbreaking, going to all them funerals.
Yeah.
I think he went to every one, if I'm not mistaken.
So there was a player at every single one of them. Okay, so just before we finish off, I've got a little contribution from a friend of ours. So I asked a friend of ours to tell us what his favourite, greatest moment was, and I'm going to share it with you because I think it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Well, neither of you two know that I'm doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. So you ready?
Yeah, this wasn't in the plan of meeting.
There we go. So for everyone who's watching, this is Billy Birch, and I've cut it down to 1 minute and 46 because he originally gave me a clip that was 5 minutes long. But here we go. He's been telling us about his greatest moments. But this is great. This
number one. This is top draw. It's not a moment. It's like a saga. This we got on the train at Lime Street at 7:30 on the Monday evening. We got off the train 7:30 Wednesday morning in Rome. It was like Van Ryn's Express. There was no water, no toilets. People were sleeping in the luggage racks. And you'd look, we were going through Switzerland, and you'd look out the window, and this train just went on for miles and miles and miles. It was unreal. At the day in Rome, as we're going to the ground, on the bridge going into the Olympic Stadium, there was a camper van parked there, and it was Bobby Robson. He'd come overland with three friends, and for the game, all the lads were chatting to him and everything. Absolute gentleman, Bobby Robson. Lovely fella. And then it's bringing me to my greatest moment. Walked into the ground, and to see that, the flags are thousands of red and white flags everywhere. The greatest banner in the history of football, Joey Jones has won. And I think my most iconic memory in football is Tommy Smith's header. Won it for the first time, getting a bit emotional now, when I think about it. But that will always live in my memory, that, and Emlyn picking a cup up. Great memories.
So that was our friend Billy Birch, and go on, Dad.
I was just going to say, just on that, did we have to sign up to some sort of gas or electric thing for Billy to be on the show? I just want to confirm we've signed up with Billy. Because he wouldn't do that for free.
Let me give a bit of context. So Billy Birch is a friend of all three of us. In fact, he was a football manager for me and Darren for many years. He managed the club that Dad and I played for a number of years. And Thomas was a manager at as well. And now he is the chairman of the club that me and Darren play at, and Thomas manages at, again, a different club. But really good man, got some brilliant stories. He was actually a top tier referee as well, and he's got some stories that I'm sure we'll introduce and get him to share at some stage. But I thought that was a great one for him to send us. He gave me, I asked him for one, he gave me like 3 or 4 different moments and I've cut it down. But I love the fact that, and that's what this is all about, is the way he's like, his voice is breaking when he's doing it, and he's getting all emotional, and the feeling that comes out. And that's what football's all about. And you mentioned it earlier, Thomas. Yeah. You know, that's why we do it. We do it for that feeling. We do it because it brings out that kind of emotion.
I think, has he paid a £5 for that? Because normally we pay him subs. We'll be around with Mum and Dad's later getting autographs or something.
Yeah, he was very excited about doing it, but I thought that was a good one to do.
To be fair to Billy, just before we finish, his recruitment policy was superb for the other clubs he's been to. And you'll know this, for the last 30 seconds of that clip, I thought you were going to bring on Chris McHale.
Yeah. Chris McHale was a like Billy's super sub. He used to bring him in from other teams to play in big games.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Tom, were you going to say something then?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just for the people that are listening on the podcast, Billy showed a picture of the Joey Jones banner that Joey ate the frog's legs.
Yeah.
For all them nothing to know what it was. And Billy is an absolute cracker, a gentleman and a proper football guy. So I'm made up he's been on the show. Well, Billy.
He can't wait to come on again. Okay.
No, that's it. That's it, Si. I'm not that involved.
All right, so you've got to pick one moment. So I think we have to end with what is the moment that sticks out in your mind of all those things that we've talked about, or one that we haven't? And we'll start off with you, Dad.
I'm going to go one that we haven't talked about as the most memorable moment for me is the Maradona handball.
Yeah, it was on my list.
It killed me, mate. But what annoyed me more is Peter Shilton couldn't jump. And I'll never forgive... If we'd have had Neville Southall in there, the fact that he was Welsh shouldn't matter. But it was one of them moments where in 1986, I was 11 years of age. It's almost like your first World Cup. England were doing okay, and then that went in, and it just broke my heart.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Thomas?
Mine is, it's got to be Istanbul, hasn't it? It's got to be, it was the greatest night I've witnessed as a Liverpool fan, being not old enough to witness the 70s and early 80s. So 2005 Istanbul, the greatest comeback in football history. Leave it at that.
Yeah, so mine for me as a Liverpool fan has got to be Istanbul, but I want to kind of spread the love a little bit, and the one that is right next to that would have to be Sergio Aguero.
Yeah,
winning the Premier League in the dying seconds like that. I mean, that's got to be right. So imagine you were a City fan, given what they've been through and given how good United were and how much they dominated the noisy neighbours. I think that's got to be right up there. That's got to be in the top three, definitely.
And at just that point, I would like to thank Si Watson for that suggestion.
Yeah.
He was a Man City fan.
All right, so let's finish off the podcast this week with a bit of news and give people an update on what's gone on around the league. So we're all dying for football to start again, and in fact, over the weekend we've had some German football, which bizarrely I've all of a sudden become a German football fan. I've always liked Dortmund, but now I'm all about the yellow wall. So let's give people an update on what's going on. Thomas, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, we all know German football started. I think what a lot of people might not know is it took 300 people to put the game on. So players, staff, coaches, physios, staff in the ground, they still required stewards, they still required St. John's ambulance or whatever that type of thing is required for the German football. That was all included. So 300 people just to get a game on in Germany. So there's still obviously some kind of risk to them people doing it, but I was glad for it to be back. It was brilliant. The one thing that I didn't know, which I found out when I looked into it this week, was the players had to be quarantined from the family for a week before they could play the game. Now, if they're playing, like the Premier League are proposing, like two times a week, that would mean that they're never going to get home to see the family. I don't know how they're going to see the family. They're going to not see them for weeks to try and get the league finished if they're going to do the same thing. So I was a little bit shocked at that. And I also did feel, even though I'm desperate for football to come back, and because it wasn't my beloved Liverpool, I did kind of feel that it was a bit of a friendly. It felt like a friendly type feel with not having a crowd. In Dutch football, quickly, De Graafschap, I don't know how you say it.
His Dutch is coming on though, isn't it, Si?
And another team called Camber took the Dutch league to court because they were clear in the second division to go up to the top division because they'd null and void the league, and they lost in the courts. So they said it's totally out of, it's not a normal season. Things aren't the way they should be. So we're gonna, your appeal doesn't count, and the league were right to cancel the league. So there's the first sort of ruling that's gone against teams that are going to take the leagues to court if they were to say we're going to null and void it or we're going to points per game it. Spain are back training. They are still looking for a 12th of June restart. They're just waiting for government approval. And the Spanish players are playing, the Italian players are all training on their own. And there's a meeting tomorrow with the government to decide the date for the start. And it's looking like a couple of weeks, but they're ready to go. So all the leagues, we're a couple of weeks behind them, I think. We are definitely looking at towards the end of June.
Yeah.
We've got till the 25th of May to make a decision to UEFA to let them know what's going on. So that's what's happening in European football.
Okay, Daz, you've been looking at the lower leagues as well. What's going on down there?
Yeah, so some great developments, I think, in the lower leagues. I think League Two have been very brave and come out and got a proposal ready for the English Football League to discuss and put forward. And basically, they voted unanimously to finish the leagues because, and this is a really important point, is because that's the best financial option for everyone. And again, we always think of money at the top end, Premier League and things like that. But actually, what was interesting, and it must be a shout out here to Port Vale, because Port Vale was 7th and they were 1 point outside the playoffs. And Port Vale voted to end the league as it is, on all points, whatever, unweighted points per game. Now, some of the Port Vale fans will be upset over that. But actually, the owner came out today on Sky and gave her the reasons why. And I have to say, it's great to see a chairman and an owner of a club come out and say it was for the greater good of football. Because actually, they're not having anyone relegated in League Two. The playoffs will continue. Promotion will hopefully continue because that just depends on what happens in League One. And what was really interesting is the costing. It was going to cost around £200,000 to continue for each club.
Wow.
Now, if you think that's what they've got to put out without getting anything back in, they've then got to bring back the players, so they go off furlough and they've got to pay them the full wage. The testing would have cost £140,000. And there was a 47-page health and safety document that they had to adhere to. So actually, what I quite like about League Two is they made the decision. Yet it does help that they've said no relegation. Yet it does help that the leagues below them have stopped null and void. But it does give them a platform. And then what's happened there is in League One, they failed to make a decision. And there were 6 clubs already opposed to cancelling the season. And it won't be no surprise that those 6 clubs have their own interest at heart. But again, I think if we've got a situation, basically, if we've got a situation where the League Two wants 3 teams promoted, then I don't see why League One can't have 3 teams promoted, and I don't see why the Championship can't have 2 or 3 leagues. Because actually, what everyone's waiting for in the Championship is the Premier League's decision. And the Premier League decision, we don't know it as yet what's going to happen still. And I think people are waiting on that because, Leeds and West Brom in the Championship have got a massive issue because I don't know if it works out points per game or what, but they're looking like they're going to come up. Massive clubs. Leeds are a huge club, been down there for far too long, but they can't actually do anything yet, Championship, until the Premier League sorted because that has a knock-on effect. And so, very brave in League Two coming out. I think it's the right decision. I think it'd be interesting. Thomas has said the 25th of May is a deadline for the Premier League. I think there's a lot of talk needed to get League One and the Championship back on track and either do what League Two are doing, and the Premier League should adapt accordingly.
Yeah.
Can I just come in there, Darren?
Go on.
Just on League One, I seen a brilliant thing the other day about League One, and it was Darren McAntony, who is the Peterborough owner. And he'd been tweeted or seen on a programme that Gary Neville was calling them selfish for wanting to continue the season. Now, he come on live on Sky the following day to challenge Gary Neville live on TV. He basically said, Gary Neville, for what's happening in League Two is slightly different to League One. And the reason being, the way you've just mentioned costings and how we go about, it was the right thing to do for League Two. It's having the opposite effect in League One, especially for Peterborough. So we give the financials out. He said approximately 150,000 for testing and 150,000 in wages and to run the club to finish the 9 games that I got left. He said he's been through his accountants and to his solicitors to find out how much he's going to lose financially from the television rights, from lack of season tickets and refunding season tickets for the 9 games, for sponsorship and for TV revenue. And he said that when he added that all up, it was around 800,000. So the 300,000 that he was initially going to pay to finish the season compared to the 800,000 that he could possibly lose, he said it's a no-brainer. It's not about being selfish. It's about supporting the people that work for him. He said he's got 250 employees, or up to 300, that he's paying 100% of the wages for at the minute. He said he doesn't want to sack them people. He wants to continue the football, and he wants to finish the season whether they go up or down. He said because the implications of losing that £800,000 is life-changing for not only the club but for his employees. So I think it was a very good argument, and it's a slightly difference because I think the wage scales from League 2 to League 1 and TV money obviously differs that much. So for Gary Neville to come out and say he's being selfish, and then for him to come back and counter argument what he did, was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, Ellie.
Yeah, just on that, Thomas Stone, I think what we have to be careful of is that every club's different. And I think what they did in League 2, League 2's finances will roughly all be similar because of the nature of it. Once you get to League 1, there's some big players in League 1. There's some big teams in League 1 who've got big wage bills and big grounds to try and fill. I just think you've got to make decisions sooner or later, because the longer it's left, the more uncertainty things have for other leagues, other clubs.
Yeah,
it's not being selfish. I think you've got to. For me, I want to see if it can't happen safely, and they don't want it to happen in September, then we have to end it in some way and make that decision and let clubs, League 2 clubs now, have got 3 or 4 months to get themselves prepared in the right way for the start of the next season, if that happens in August, September.
But I think that's the point, isn't it? Is that the leagues will probably have to act differently because the salary structures, the cost of running a club is totally different. And to your point, Daz, there are teams in League 1 that have been in the Premier League. Yeah. So it's a very different. They get parachute payments. They have different TV rights. They have different wage structures. They have bigger players. So it just looks very different. But I think your point was spot on earlier, Daz, that everyone's waiting for the Premier League. So let me give you a quick update on what's going on with the Premier League. So the date that everyone's been talking about is the 12th of June. Well, now that's been thrown into a bit of disarray, and they're now saying it's likely to be the 26th of June. So that's changed quite a bit. And there's a vote happening tomorrow, Monday the 14th, about about moving into the first phase. So the first phase of restart. Now, only, as we said last week, only 14 clubs of the 20 need to agree. And there have been clubs and teams that have come out. Steve Bruce has come out and believes that we shouldn't do anything before the end of June. Players are happy with the safety measures, but they're not fit enough to play. He thinks they'll need 6 weeks. Then you've got Nigel Pearson, who's come out as well and also voiced his concerns. You've also had ex-players that have been saying that the pressure on the current players is too much. And as we said earlier, that kind of peer pressure and the pressure from the football society and the Premier League and related to all the money that's involved must be massive on the players. And then, speaking of the players, you've had people like Sterling, Aguero, Tyrone Mings, Danny Rose and Wayne Rooney have all come out and said it's far too early, we shouldn't be doing anything before the end of June. However, I do think that once the government had decided that at the beginning of June, sporting events could happen behind closed doors, I just think that was the nail in the coffin for this not restarting. I think it's the impetus that the Premier League needed to really drive home the clubs. And they're having all sorts of meetings and conversations with the captains and the managers because there's just too much money involved. And again, we could be naive and say that this is going to be driven by the health of the players or the health of the people, the 300 people that are in the ground. I just don't think that's reality. I think reality tells us that it's going to be driven by a financial decision. And what we hope as fans is it restarts, but it restarts when it's safe. I don't care whether it's July. I don't think we should be starting it early if we can't guarantee the safety of the people out of there. But I think you're right, Daz. I think there has to be some decisions. And I think with the Premier League, we will come to a decision in probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. And if they vote tomorrow for the first phase, I think we're nailed on for it to start at some point in June. Yeah. So we'll keep our eye on it. We'll talk about it on future podcasts. But it's good to see that the wheels are in motion. We all just want it to be done in a safe way.
Yeah.
Simon, what I think is, I think we're ready. I think it's time. I think it's time for Thomas to get a little bit excited. I think it's time for Thomas to reveal this week his wall of hate. I'm ready for it. I don't know if Thomas is. He's looking at a script or something there.
I'll tell you what, I'm ready for it, Daz. I'm ready to find out who Thomas is mostly hating this week.
Well, I'm not going to lie. This week is going to be an absolute pleasure to do this one. I absolutely hate this person that I'm going to speak about. This guy thinks that he's a legend of football. He thinks he's an absolute legend. In fact, he is one of the most hated players to ever have graced the Premier League, in my eyes, and certainly I'm hoping you'll agree when we finish. I just can't stand him. He, like I say, he thinks he's a legend. He's played for Liverpool. You believe it or not, I'm going to slag an ex-Liverpool player off. He's played for Blackburn. He's played for Sunderland, Rangers, and he was an actual star of Senegal. We're talking about the one and only El Hadji Diouf.
Oh, yeah.
He's an absolute weapon. Like, first off, he did one of the most despicable things you can do on a football field. He spat in a fan's face up in Celtic in a European Cup or UEFA Cup game up in Celtic Park. Absolute disgrace of a man. Spat in a fan's face. He didn't like the abuse he was getting. He also spat in a Portsmouth player's face a few years later for another team. He got banned. He got done for assault as well. You know, he's got like small man syndrome. Well, he's got a small man syndrome because he is a Dennis Rodman wannabe. He dyes his hair the stupid colours. He's about 5 foot shorter than Dennis Rodman. He acts like, you know, I'm the big I am on the pitch. Touch him, rolls over, stupid falls all over the pitch, just useless. You know, we had one good World Cup. He played for Senegal. He looked like an absolute worldie. Everything he touched, he was going past players like they weren't there, scoring goals left, right and centre. Come to Liverpool, he couldn't score in a brothel. He was useless, honestly. I've seen him around Liverpool. I work in the city centre and I've seen him around quite a lot. And he thought he was on MTV's Pimp My Ride. He had a massive yellow Hummer.
Oh.
And he drove around with the spinny wheels and he used to park it outside this really expensive jewellery shop. He looked like an absolute idiot. What happened a few weeks later after he bought that car was he got done for drink driving and he had to hire a Liverpool Hackney driver to drive his Hummer around. Hey, but what he didn't know was the taxi driver had him on trap 3. Was having him off. So I found out in quite a few autobiographies that I've read that he was very, very jealous of probably the greatest player that's graced the Premiership in Steven Gerrard and my fellow favourite player of all time, Jamie Carragher. He was jealous of them. He couldn't stand the fact that they were heroes and godlike figures across the city. And he often shouted at them saying, I was the king of Senegal, I'm the king of Senegal, you only liked in Liverpool. Well, no, they were the kings of the world. They were the kings of the cop. You were absolutely useless. You were the only number 9 in Liverpool's history to not score a goal in a season, you absolute weapon. Honestly, he was hated in the dressing room. He was hated in the dressing room more than the time when Gary Neville walked in by mistake. He's an absolute weapon. I can't stand the man, and that's why I'm putting El Hadji Diouf. He's going to the very top of my wall of hate.
Well done. That's a good one, mate.
Well
I
done,
can't
mate.
believe you're calling out a Liverpool player. I never thought I'd ever hear that.
Well, he wasn't that good, was he? And I can't stand him.
Yeah, that's the last one you'll get of them, Daz.
Yeah, I won't get any more of them. I enjoyed that, Thomas. It was unusual. It felt weird at the beginning.
I love the fact that he's calling out the yellow Hummer and the taxi driver overcharging. Brilliant. I love that. The best thing about it is anyone who doesn't know how taxis work will have no idea what you were saying.
Yeah, it's quite a unique audience we've aimed for there.
I need to just say, Liverpool taxi drivers are the best in the business, and they don't usually overcharge. It was just this one.
And in that case, they were absolutely right. All right, so we've got another new segment, and Daz, I'm going to hand over to you.
Right, okay. So we thought we'd, because of the way the podcasts work at the moment, a lot of interaction on our Facebook and different things, we'd put out a little bit of a quizzy type question. And I was thinking of something quite jazzy to think what we could call it. And I've come up with a quizzy type question. So,
brilliant, Daz, well done.
So I've spent hours working that out. So I'm going to work for radio, I think, with these type of jingles. So I'm going to give you 5 clues into a famous footballer. And then on our Facebook page in a couple of days, I'll reveal who the famous footballer I'm talking about. And you guys don't know who it is, do you?
No.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, so this guy, he was made captain of his League 2 side at 18 years of age. He has played for top teams in England, Scotland, France, and Italy. His roles in football have included being player coach and player manager. He was made an MBE in 1993 and was inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame in 2013, and he played 84 times for England. Please do not Google, just have a go. You're only allowed 1 guess on the Facebook page. Any more than that will get scrapped, and best of luck.
That's a good one. Daz, are you going to put the clues up on the Facebook page?
Yes, I'll email them to you now, and you as our technical advisor will sort that out.
Can you also put them up on YouTube as a comment?
Yes, will do. Yeah.
Because I think that'll help people who are not on the Facebook page as well.
What I won't do is I won't put a picture.
Lovely. Okay, that's a really good one, because that's going to make people think. Hopefully people won't Google it and they'll actually have a guess.
Yeah.
All right, so Thomas, do you want to give us your final thoughts before we finish off?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the messages that I've been getting privately, and I've been forwarding them on to you, Simon, so you can add them to the intro, and just thanking people just for letting us know they're enjoying it. So appreciate it. Like and subscribe, and keep sending your ideas into us, and we'll try our best to get through them.
Cool, Daz?
Yeah, just to reiterate that, but also get involved in the different media and comments and any votes that we have, any surveys. It's really good, and we do listen most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, we're selective about the comments that we read out, but yeah, good one. Okay, so we're available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Radio. You can also get us at the website at www.threemenofafootball.com. And obviously we're available on YouTube, where you get to see the video and see our lovely faces. We're really enjoying it. The feedback is brilliant. The reason we're doing this and the reason we're continuing to do it is because we're getting great feedback. So keep it coming. I love the vote this week because we got some real good interaction, and we've got to talk about something that people really wanted to hear. Hopefully we've touched on a lot of people's moments. And when we come back in the next episode, it'll be another cracker for us to talk about. So thanks to everyone for listening, and see you on the next one. Thanks, lads.